The strategic map of Northern Europe has shifted dramatically in just a few years. With Sweden and Finland now inside NATO, the entire Nordic region, from the Arctic to the Baltic, forms a contiguous defensive arc facing Russia. For decades, NATO's northern flank was incomplete, leaving gaps between Norway, Denmark, and the Baltic states. Today, those gaps are closed, creating what some analysts call NATO's Arctic Wall. This wall is not made of concrete or steel, but of air bases, naval flotillas, missile batteries, and a growing industrial base that supplies both the Nordics and NATO partners abroad. The driving force behind this transformation is the perceived threat from Russia. Moscow has restructured its military to focus on the northwestern theater, activating a new Leningrad military district and reinforcing its northern fleet in Murmansk. The Zapad 2025 exercises with Belarus demonstrated Russia's focus on large-scale operations aimed at NATO's eastern and northern flanks. For the Nordic countries, these developments confirm that deterrence must be backed by hard power. That is why their defense budgets are expanding faster than at any point since the Cold War. Sweden provides a clear example. Its government has announced that defense spending will rise to roughly 2.8% of GDP by 2026, up nearly $3 billion compared to 2025. This puts Stockholm on a path not just to meet NATO's traditional 2% target, but to approach the higher levels that some allies are now advocating, closer to 3 or even 3.5%. Finland already spends above 2% and has invested heavily in Patriot air defense systems and F-35 fighters. Norway and Denmark are pursuing parallel modernization programs, from F-35 squadrons to advanced submarines and surface combatants. Across the region, the trajectory is clear. Defense spending levels are converging around 2.5 to 3% of GDP, locking in a long-term commitment to deterrence. Air power is the most visible element of this new shield. Norway, Denmark, and Finland are all introducing the F-35, bringing stealth, sensor fusion, and secure data sharing into Nordic skies. Sweden, meanwhile, is fielding the Gripen E, an affordable, highly maneuverable platform well-suited to dispersed operations. It is complemented by Saab's GlobalEye airborne early warning aircraft, which can extend radar coverage across the Baltic and Arctic. Together, these fleets number more than 250 fourth and fifth generation fighters, a force capable of overwhelming Russia's air contingents in Murmansk or Kaliningrad. What makes them particularly formidable is not just the individual aircraft, but the possibility of a common sensor network linking F-35s and Gripens into a shared picture of the battle space. Air defense on the ground is the second pillar. At the short range, Sweden deploys RBS-70 and is procuring Iris-T SLS systems, while other states rely on manpads and mobile short-range systems. At the medium tier, the Norwegian-developed NASAMS is now the most widely fielded system in the region, with both Finland and the Baltic states operating batteries. At the top tier, Finland has purchased Patriot, joining Germany and other NATO members who are forward deploying the system to the Baltic. But the most recent development is Denmark's decision to acquire the Franco-Italian SAMP system rather than the American Patriot. This move, worth more than $9 billion, signals a desire to strengthen European defense industry while still meeting NATO's requirements. Collectively, these investments form a multi-layered shield designed to counter aircraft, cruise missiles, drones, and potentially even ballistic threats. At sea, the Nordics are modernizing to control both the Baltic Sea and approaches to the Arctic. Sweden is upgrading its Visby-class corvettes with new sensors and RBS-15 anti-ship missiles. Finland is building the Pohjanmaa-class multi-role corvettes, scheduled for delivery around 2029, designed to operate in the shallow but contested waters of the Gulf of Finland. Norway is investing in the Type 212 CD submarines in partnership with Germany, extending undersea capabilities well into the 2030s while maintaining its Fridtjof Nansen-class frigates. Denmark contributes with its Ivar Huitfeldt-class air defense frigates and Absalon-class support ships, which provide command and control for multinational operations. Collectively, these navies will control critical choke points such as the Kattegat, Skagerrak, and the entrances to the Baltic, denying Russia easy access while securing NATO's sea lines of communication. Behind these forces stands an increasingly capable industrial base. Saab in Sweden produces not only the Gripen fighter, but also the GlobalEye, Iris-T launchers, and RBS-15 missiles. Kongsberg in Norway is responsible for NASAMS and the Naval Strike Missile, both of which have become standard equipment across NATO and beyond. Patria in Finland supplies armored vehicles and innovative mortar systems such as Nemo, while Nammo produces artillery and rocket ammunition, much of it sent to Ukraine. The result is that the Nordic countries are not just consumers of NATO defense technology. They are suppliers, exporting advanced systems that strengthen the alliance as a whole. In an era when ammunition shortages are a critical vulnerability, Nordic industry is playing a central role in closing the gap. The Arctic adds another dimension. Climate change is opening northern sea routes, and Russia has expanded its bases on the Kola Peninsula and along the northern sea route. China has declared itself a near-Arctic state, seeking influence through scientific and economic missions. NATO cannot ignore this. That is why Denmark hosted the Arctic Light 2025 exercise in Greenland, with French, German, Norwegian, and Swedish participation. The drill was not only about combat scenarios, but also about logistics, civilian support, and interoperability in extreme conditions. The message was clear. The Arctic is no longer a remote periphery, but a frontline theater where NATO must be present. All these developments raise important questions about sustainability. Can small and medium-sized economies like Sweden, Finland, and Norway sustain defense budgets approaching 3% of GDP year after year? Will domestic politics accept such high levels of spending once the immediate shock of Russia's war in Ukraine fades? And how much will the Nordics continue to rely on American enablers such as strategic lift, nuclear deterrents, and space-based intelligence, even as they seek to strengthen European autonomy through systems like SAMP-TT? What is undeniable is that the Nordics are no longer a quiet corner of Europe's security architecture. They have become central players, both militarily and industrially. The Northern Shield that is being built is not just a regional defense arrangement, but a cornerstone of NATO's global posture. By knitting together air, sea, and land capabilities, and by anchoring those forces in a resilient industrial base, the Nordic states are turning geography into strength. The Arctic Wall may be invisible, but for Russia, it is becoming one of the most formidable barriers it has faced in decades.